So the question is, if there's somebody that is beginning to feel maybe a sense of this call, how should they go about discerning this vocation? That's a great question. So first of all, this is different than looking at pursuing a job, right? So with a job, you might go figure out what skills you need. You're going to, polish up the resume, make sure that it looks spotless, and you're going to put your best foot forward. When we're talking about vocation, in particular to holy orders, that's not really what it's about. It's more about what God is doing in this person's life and how they're responding to it. So when it comes to discerning this, I think there's a couple really important things. One, you're bringing it into prayer, right? So it's not just an idea that you're thinking about. No, you're actually bringing it into the dialogue of your prayer personally. You're talking about it with your wife if you're married. Oftentimes, we'll hear this in our interview process about how a man felt this call for a long time and didn't bring it up to his wife until such and such point. And that's fine. But at some point, you need to have the conversation with your spouse because this is obviously going to affect the marriage. It's something to bring up with your pastor. He's an ordained minister, but he also knows you as a parishioner. And so to begin dialoguing about, is this something that I'm seeing here? Or is this maybe not the case? And the pastor really has a good feel for if he can see this man as somebody ordained or not in the future. The next thing to do would be to, if you have a spiritual director, bring it into spiritual direction, right? Again, the whole point here is to figure out what is the Holy Spirit doing? Is this prompting this growing desire? Is this something that's coming from yourself? Is it something that's coming from the Holy Spirit? What's the origin here? Why am I being drawn to this? What aspects of this am I being drawn to? And writing it down. So often we kind of forget. Write it down. And then finally, I would say a big step here and an important step is to recognize that you're not going to discern this on your own apart from the church. That was one of the things that my wife and I discovered about our own journey, is that we were trying to get to a point where, hey, yeah, we're sure this is what's supposed to happen before we actually applied, before we actually submitted ourselves. And part of that is a fear of being rejected, right? And part of that is just not recognizing the nature of how it works. And so by analogy, it's kind of the equivalent of saying, all right, well, I feel like I'm called to marriage. Okay, you can discern that on your own. But to say that definitively you're supposed to be married, you can't do that without the other person, right? It's always done in the context of having a relationship. Same goes here for the vocation to holy orders. You can't discern it apart from the church. The church has to be involved in this. And so the whole first part of the formation process for permanent deacons, it's a process called aspirancy or aspirancy. And it's a time of formal discernment. It's the time where you're thinking more about, oh, okay, this is really what the diaconate is about. And it's a time for the church to be able to say, does this person seem like they can fit? Do they have the right disposition to formation? Do they have the right capacities? Is their personality a bridge or an obstacle here? And most importantly, what is the Holy Spirit doing? Is God calling this person to this vocation or not?